I'd like to invite our Vice Chairman to give us the opening statement. Thank you.
We are summoned here to make decisions which bind our authority for time to come. Let us do so in an atmosphere of dignity, goodwill, respect and calm. May those decisions be just and fair, and in the long term, the best interests of the people who live and work in our beautiful county of Dorset.
So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our meeting of full council on the 20th of October 2022. It's rather a warm evening, and if gentlemen may wish to remove their jackets, that would be absolutely fine. Excuse me. Much has happened since our last meeting in July, the most important event being the sad death of our dear Queen Elizabeth II, and this is the first opportunity we've had as a council to pay tribute. Our beloved Queen was a true inspiration to anyone that holds office, and her selfless devotion to service over so many years was something we can only aspire to emulate. We had, in her person, someone that reminded us of the value of long service, a long service that was patient and painstaking, and not without its risks, whether reputational or physical. I can only pay my earnest respects to the memory of Her Gracious Majesty and thank her on behalf of our county for a lifetime's dedication and offer our enduring gratitude and affection. I would now like to invite Councillor Spencer Flower to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. The announcement of the passing of our beloved Queen Elizabeth II on Thursday, the 8th of September, at her Scottish home, Balmoral, was met with shock and extreme sadness across the nation and the world. Her Majesty has left a lasting legacy following 70 years of long, devoted dedication to service, along with her sense of duty and loyalty to the people of this great country and the Commonwealth, demonstrating humility rather than entitlement. The late Queen visited Dorset on a number of occasions, and the last but one, which I'm going to mention, was being the Diamond Jubilee, much to the joy and appreciation of those whom she met during her stay in the county. The late Queen was a truly remarkable woman, and her death has created a feeling of enormous loss across the United Kingdom. It was her ability to reach out to her subjects through television broadcasts, public speeches and appearances, which made us all feel valued and respected. Through conflict and war, she's been an inspiration and a comforting figure, whose strong words of quiet defiance and unity hold our great nation together. During her 70 years, the late Queen won the respect and admiration of nations, governments and monarchs around the world. She was also served by 15 Prime Ministers during that time. The Queen's Platinum Jubilee was a celebration of 70 years of unwavering service to her people, which will be remembered for a very long time. The Jubilee was a really special occasion when the whole country and Commonwealth came together in a spirit of unity and appreciation. May Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II rest in everlasting peace. God save the King.
Thank you, Spencer. I would now like to invite Councillor Nick Ireland to speak.
Thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Farrar has said it all, really, but I do have a few words to say. Like many of you here, I grew up with no other monarch. The Queen Elizabeth was the only monarch I've ever known until now, but I was actually never fortunate enough to meet her in person. The closest I came to meeting her, the late Queen was, I think, during her Silver Jubilee, when I remember standing for rather a long time on Hope Street in Liverpool, which I'm sure Councillor Flower knows, with my classmates waiting for the Queen to go from the one service at the Catholic Cathedral to a service at the Anglican Cathedral, which is at the other end of the street. However, my 10-year-old back in 2009 did actually meet the Queen on Weymouth Beach, as it was, and with his classmates. And not only did he meet her, he managed to shake her hand and get a photograph in the Dorset Echo. So I was hoping for a useful anecdote from him, and I contacted him and said, what can I say? And what he had to offer was that she was nice and she had soft hands. It's probably not the epitaph to put on a gravestone, but I think it's probably appropriate. Many of my Dorchester Liberal Democrat colleagues on town, district and county, and now unitary Dorset Council, have in the past enjoyed a fruitful relationship with the King and also with the Duchy, and with respect to Poundbury, obviously. And they also look forward to welcoming the new Duke to Dorchester very soon. So on behalf of the entire Liberal Democrat group, I extend our sincere condolences on the loss of their mother and their grandmother. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. And now it's over to Councillor Claire Sutton.
Thank you, Chair. To be absolutely frank, given the multiple pressures which many of our residents are facing, I think some may question whether we've got our priorities right in allocating 40 minutes. I will, though, say a few words on behalf of my group, because I respect the Queen just as everyone else here did. After work on September the 8th, I was stewing apples in my kitchen and thinking about my grandma, who was a wartime mum, and how she'd be smiling at my efforts. Then the radio informed me of the Queen's death. It was a poignant moment. My grandmother loved the Queen and the royal family. A while back, whilst I was chair of a national charity, I spoke alongside our patron, the then Prince Charles, at a public event. A photo of me alongside Prince Charles was one of my grandma's most precious possessions. I can't claim to have met the Queen in person, but I did attend a Buckingham Palace garden party with my sister. My standout memories of the day were how extraordinarily glamorous my sister looked, how tiny the sandwiches were, and the huge excitement when the Queen arrived wearing a day-glow green suit, so even from a distance you could identify her and feel her presence. I'm talking in personal terms because I think the period of national mourning made many of us reflect on those that we have loved and lost, and helps us to feel the personal grief of the Queen's children and her grandchildren. Personally, I would prefer an elected head of state, and recent polls show that the under-25s in this country tend to agree. And I hope we can all respect each other's views on this. Nevertheless, I can say, without equivocation, that throughout her 70-year reign, our late Queen performed her duties with great dignity and great humility, and rightly earned the love and respect we have all borne witness to. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Councillor Les Fry.
Thank you, Chair. It is hard to say something that has not been said before about Her Majesty, that has not been said during her 70 years of reign. At her coronation, Her Majesty dedicated her whole life to service and duty of the people of this country and the Commonwealth. During her long life, she supported and encouraged those with influence to use that privilege to make the world a better place. The Queen always did what she thought was the best for the people, country and world, whilst avoiding making any political comments or statements, no matter how important these were nationally or internationally. Her Majesty was a role model to so many people, including each one of us, by demonstrating her values in everything she did with dignity and respect, and never commenting on political issues. A woman of few words, but when she spoke, she was always able to set the right tone of support, kindness, compassion, and respect. Let us remember that the Queen was also a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother, and the values that she consistently displayed to her direct family carried the feelings many hold that she was a dear mother, grandmother to us all. Her Majesty the Queen visited Dorchester twice, once in 1952 and the other in 2016, when the statue of Her Majesty the Queen Mother was unveiled on Poundbury. Ironically, I was in Kenya when I heard that she had passed away on a news flash on Kenyan TV, and that was interesting. This came as a complete surprise, as we'd not been aware of the media coverage during the day. After a lifetime of knowing that the Queen was our monarch, it would take some time for the change to really sink in, but we can be confident that she prepared her son, King Charles III, well to continue the service and duty to the people and our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. Councillor Bill Pipe.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wasn't expecting to be called quite so soon. The British royal family has been with us for many, many years, Madam Chairman, and most of us in this chamber this evening were born Elizabethans during the reign of Her late Majesty. For one, I am proud to be an Elizabethan, the second one, not the first one. I'm not quite that old yet. I had the absolute pleasure of seeing Her late Majesty in 1969 when she opened Poole Hospital, and she came to my school, Alderney Junior School. Although just a fleeting glimpse of a gloved hand doing the royal wave, that moment actually changed my life. I had become an ardent believer in the royal family and the role that they have within this United Kingdom and in the Commonwealth of Nations. I first met Queen Elizabeth at the 1976 Montreal Olympic Games, where HMS Hermes was Her Majesty's guardship, and I was one of the just 24 servicemen from the Royal Marines and the Royal Navy who formed a guard of honour for her. The 1976 Olympics were a family affair, with the now Princess Royal competing in the dressage events and the rest of the young princes and the late Duke of Edinburgh all in attendance. The second time our paths crossed was in similar circumstances in the United Arab Emirates in 1979, shortly after the Shah was overthrown in the Islamic Revolution. Her Majesty was on a Foreign Office-sponsored visit to the Gulf states in order to reassure them of our protection should the fallout from the Islamic Revolution in Iran threaten these very important states. I again was part of a Guard of Honour in Dubai on, say, the Monday, and again in Abu Dhabi on the Wednesday. There was a flicker of recognition in Her Majesty's eyes as she passed amongst us. I smiled and said nothing. I attended a garden party at Buckingham Palace on May the 18th this year, along with a town council colleague of mine, Councillor Stuart McKell, in recognition for our work in the community. Although the Queen was at Windsor at the time, she wasn't staying at Buckingham Palace. We still had the honour of seeing Kate and a few others whose name escapes me. Her Majesty was a one-off, a compassionate mother to her 4 children and a dedicated wife. She was also a mother and grandmother to tens of millions of people around the world who quite rightly adored her, not only because of who she was, but for what she was. She will be sorely missed, Madam Chairman, by the whole world. God save the King.
Thank you, Bill. Councillor David Walsh.
Thank you, Chairman. I swore my oath of allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II when I joined the Royal Air Force. And my proudest memories are the 2 occasions when I was presented to Her Majesty in 1991 and 92. It was incredible how she put you at your ease instantly. And for a lady of such a petite frame, she had a huge presence, even when surrounded by big burly military. Like most people I know, when hearing the news of the late Queen's death, I was distraught. The world was a poorer place following the death of one of the world's greatest leaders, one we were proud to serve, and I made my private tribute then. But in my role as member champion for the Royal Air Force in Dorset and chairman of the Dorset's Armed Forces Covenant Programme Board, it was imperative that I paid respects to the late Queen, Elizabeth II, who had been head of our armed forces. As our Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the Queen was its supreme authority of Britain's military. 16th September at 11 p.m, with Belinda's support, I joined the queue to walk to Westminster. After 10.5 hours, I saluted Queen Elizabeth II for the very last time as she lay in state. Thank you for your service, ma'am. God save the King.
Well done, David.
Thank you, David. Councillor Louis O'Leary.
Thank you, Chairman. By the year 1998, the year of my birth, which makes me under 25, Her Majesty was only 4 years short of celebrating 50 years on the throne. And in that time, this country had lost many things: its self-confidence in many ways, its empire, its heavy industry, many of its traditions, cultures and customs. Yet despite that, it still remains and remained Great Britain. This is partly thanks to 70 years of glorious public service by Her late Majesty. The values she represented, duty, morality in public life, sacrifice, love of country and charity, were the best of British and remain so. These values are sown into the fabric of this nation like an oak's roots in the soils of this green pastures of this country. This nation's best days lie ahead of it, yet with Her Majesty's passing, some very fine days lie behind us. The last world leader of the 1950s and 60s, long after de Gaulle, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Menzies and others have departed not just office but this earth, the last head of state to see service in the Second World War, the longest serving British monarch. We will not see her likes again. When watching back her coronation, the splendour and the majesty pour out of the screen. I saw her once on a visit to Weymouth as a boy, and almost 60 years later, that time had not devalued or defaced such splendour or majesty. And my only comment on seeing her and on my opinions of her is to quote the late Sir Robert Menzies, "I did but see her passing, yet I loved her till I die."
Thank you, Louis. Councillor Mary Penfold.
Chairman, the death of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth is the end of an era. It was a privilege to meet her, a lifetime of service and dedication to us all, and for this we are eternally grateful. Thank you for everything, ma'am. We will all miss you very much. God save our King.
God save the King.
Thank you, Mary. And lastly, we have Councillor Belinda Rideout.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, for the opportunity to make my tribute to our late Queen. I was very privileged to have been in Her Majesty's presence at a royal garden party at Buckingham Palace in my mayoral year 2017. I, like so many, feel a great sense of loss, which has been echoed by very moving tributes from here at home and across the world. Her Majesty has always been in my life. Like many families, Her Majesty's address to the nation on Christmas Day was a big part of our family's Christmas. It always had a profound effect on me, even as a child, listening to her words, how she looked, and the sense of pride we all felt to be part of her nation. The passing of Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth II has given us great cause to pause and reflect upon the reign of such a remarkable lady. David and I felt compelled to join the queue at Southwark Park late on the Friday evening to pay our respects. 10.5 hours later, we were stood in front of Her Majesty's coffin. It was a profound moment I shall never forget. Neither shall I forget the kindness of everyone in that queue and in London generally that weekend. All ages seeking to be with other human beings, leaving flowers, handmade tributes were left in Hyde Park and Green Park with little personal messages at a very sad time. To me, this couldn't have been a greater tribute to our late Queen, as it showed how this great lady had touched so many people's lives. Thank you, ma'am. God save the King.
God save the King.
Thank you, Belinda. And thank you, everyone, for those very fitting tributes. As one or two of you have said, so much has been said through the period of mourning. It's very hard to give a personal tribute, I believe, but I think we've acquitted ourselves well. So I would now like you to stand, please, for 1 minute silence. So returning to our agenda, we have agenda item 2, apologies, please. Susan.
Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Janet Dover, Councillor Molly Rennie, Councillor Robin Cook, Councillor Howard Legg, Councillor David Gray, Councillor Andrew Starr, Councillor Julie Robinson, Councillor Rebecca Knox and Councillor Andrew Kirby. And the following members will be attending the meeting remotely: Councillor Jill Taylor, Councillor Mike Dyer, Councillor Paul Kimber and Councillor Ryan Holloway.
Thank you, Susan. Agenda item 3 is to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of July 2022. Could you please nod your approval to approve these minutes? Agreed. Thank you very much. Agenda item 4 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please?
Thank you. I have consulted the monitoring officer about whether I can participate on item 13 on the agenda tonight concerning governance arrangements for harbours, because I am the council's representative on SCOPAC, the Standing Conference on Problems Associated with the Coastline. I'm also a member of the Coastal Special Interest Group. The monitoring officers have advised that as a decision about government arrangements for harbours does not relate directly to the work of SCOPAC or SIG, I am able to speak and vote without the need for a dispensation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mary. Do we have any further declarations of interest, please? Thank you. Having trouble with one of our microphones this evening. So, agenda item 5 is Chairman's announcements. I have no announcements other than to say that we will be using the traffic light system this evening. So, after 2.5 minutes, the amber light will come on, and after 3 minutes, the red light will come on. I don't believe I've used this before, but we do have quite a heavy agenda this evening. And I personally haven't ordered breakfast. I don't know about you members, so it would be good if we can keep to time. Thank you. So agenda item 6 is public participation, questions and statements. And our first question is from Miranda Tunnicliffe.
Oh, is it? Oh, is it not right? Okay. My question is, will Dorset Highways work with local residents to deal with the current blocked drains, start a programme of cleaning the gullies and review the clearly ineffective policy of returning to jobs in parking spaces 3 times without alerting the residents that they need access? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miranda, and thank you for not giving us the preamble on the basis that we are trying to accommodate everyone this evening. We've got 17 questions and statements, all to fit in 30 minutes, so we're doing our best. I'd like to ask Councillor Ray Bryan, Portfolio Holder for Highways, Travel and Environment, to give you a response.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. And first of all, can I thank you for the question and taking the interest on what the Council actually does. Dorset Council links the scheduled cleaning of gullies to the roads that are gritted as part of our winter maintenance works. Roads on the salted network have their gullies cleaned annually. Roads such as the Park District that are not on the standard salting routes do not have their gullies cleared on a scheduled basis. Instead, these are responded to if any issues are identified. This is usually following routine inspection or in response to inquiries raised by members of the public. This is in accordance with the Dorset Council's maintenance plan. Members of the public who use our website to report issues with gullies are kept up to date with the progress of their inquiry through our digital asset management system. We are committed to continue working with local residents on these issues. As an action from the public meeting on the 7th of October, a walkabout has been arranged with the Community Highways Officer and representatives of the community group. This will take place at 9:30 on the 25th of October. With regards to maintaining access to gullies needing to be cleared, we do contact residents where necessary and have provided cones to maintain access. It's good to hear that local residents are prepared to assist with clearing the cars. It would be a great help if the residents could assist with ensuring that the cones are not moved and cars don't park where the cones are put out. In addition, this work is carried out by 3 different areas within the council: highways, waste and green space. We are currently working on a full review under the title Hedge to Hedge. This will look at not just drainage, but also weeds and road sweeping. I expect to have this initial work completed within the next few months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. Question 2 will be put by Julie Booker on behalf of Dorset Action on Pensions.
I think I've pressed the right button, Chair. It's a bit musical chairs tonight, isn't it? We'll do our best. Anyway, my question is on government consultation on the local government pension schemes in respect of reporting and accounting for climate change risks into the future. The government consultation proposals include improved transparency requirements in the future, open and accessible for all stakeholders and pension members. In the spirit of this, and on the assumption that Dorset Council will submit a response to the consultation, what arrangements are Dorset Council making to consult with Dorset Pension Fund members on the Council's submission? And what is being done to make pension fund members aware of the government's consultation and their right to make individual submissions?
Thank you, Julie. I'm going to ask Councillor Peter Wolfe, a Deputy Leader and Portfolio Holder for Adult Social Care and Health, to give you a response. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Dorset Council is the administering authority for the local government pension scheme and hosts the Pension Fund Committee. The committee comprises not only members of Dorset Council, but also members of Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council, and a scheme member representative appointed by those trade unions whose membership includes members of the pension scheme. Decisions about the timing of its meetings and whether or how the committee chooses to respond to any consultation are matters for the committee and not for Dorset Council alone. In my capacity as Vice Chair of the Dorset County Pension Fund, I will speak with the Chairman of the committee, Councillor Andy Canning, and seek his views to the most appropriate way to respond to the consultation.
Thank you, Councillor Wharf. Question 3 will be put by Helen Sumbler. Thank you.
Hello, I'm online. I've got 2 questions. The first one is on my own behalf, and the second one is asked on my behalf and as the coordinator for the Dorset Can Transport team. And I won't read the preamble. As the adoption of the Dorset Council local plan has been delayed to 2026, what are the milestones for the preparation, consultation and publication of the joint local transport plan for 2022 to 2038 that aligns with the new local plan? Shall I ask question 2 at the same time?
Yes, please, if you're happy to do so.
Okay. And in the absence of a current implementation plan, how is Dorset Council going to publicise and inform members of the public about expenditure on the transport network and about projects and their priorities until the new local transport plan and its accompanying implementation plan are published? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helen. And we will ask Councillor Ray Bryan, portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and Environment, to give you a response to both questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and can I thank you for taking the interest in asking a question. The production, in answer to your first question, the production of the LTP4 has been delayed while the Council awaits new local transport plan guidance from the Department of Transport. The new guidance had been expected in spring 2022, but the latest government announcement is that a consultation on the new guidance will be launched in autumn 2022. A detailed programme will be developed, produce and publish a new LTP, Local Transport Plan, once the guidance is available. In answer to your question 2, a review of LTP3 is currently being undertaken. This forms part of initial baselining and evidence gathering that will help to inform the development of the new joint Local Transport Plan. A report will be submitted to the Place and Resources Scrutiny Committee in spring 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Questions 5 and 6 will be put by Peter Robertson. I'm not quite sure if he's in attendance or online.
Good evening. Yes, I'm online. Given that all 3 of Dorset Council's proposed investment zones are each adjacent to nationally and internationally protected sites for nature, will the Council follow the lead set by Solent Freeport and only accept investment zone status for any of these sites on the basis that the full suite of current environmental protections are maintained with no dilution to the planning process? And will you also commit to consulting with Natural England, Environment Agency, the RSPB, who manage Radipole Lake Nature Reserve, Dorset Wildlife Trust, who manage Winthrop and Tadnall Nature Reserve, and Portland Bird Observatory, who manage Land on Portland, on the development of proposals for these 3 investment zones at the earliest opportunity? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. We have invited Councillor Spencer Flower to answer both of your questions as part of his leaders' briefing, which is a slightly later agenda item. I hope you're happy with that.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 7 is put by Kaz Dennett.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I would just like to read one paragraph from the statement that goes with the question, because I feel it is only respectful to the lives that I'm referencing there. Just in brief, last month, the BBC published an investigative documentary called Under Poison Skies, which is an expose of excessive and undeclared gas flaring in the Basra oil fields in Iraq. This is unnecessary and preventable and is causing deathly air pollution, which is creating unlivable communities and is directly related to high cases of childhood leukemia and cancers. The oil companies flare gas because it's a byproduct of oil extraction. The people who live in these communities that are now surrounded by oil production facilities say they feel they are merely sacrifice zones. So in that context, how comfortable are councillors and the council knowing that investments the council has in oil and gas is funding childhood leukemia and cancers and an unlivable environments and sacrificed communities? And following that, now is the time to use our council tax money to fund something for good, such as sustainable, livable futures. Therefore, will Dorset Council set a plan to move all of its finances, including pension investments, bank accounts, insurance policies, etc., to sustainable accounts and healthy financial products? Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Kaz. We will ask Councillor Peter Wolff, a Deputy Leader and Portfolio Holder for Adult Social Care and Health, to give you a response.
Thank you, Ms Dennett, for your question. Dorset Council does use council tax money to fund something good. It uses the money to fund local services for local people. Any surplus balances are invested in accordance with the Treasury Management Strategy, which is agreed annually by full council. The council's objective when investing money is to strike an appropriate balance between risk and return, minimising the risk of incurring losses from defaults and the risk of receiving unsuitably low investment income. The primary duty of the Pension Fund Committee is to ensure that contributions to the pension fund by scheme members and their employers are invested appropriately to make returns sufficient to pay pensions and other scheme benefits as they fall due. The Pension Fund Committee is currently reviewing its long-term investment strategy as part of a 3-year planned review. The strategy will be formally approved by the Pension Fund Committee in the middle of next year, and it will need to strike the right balance between equities and fixed income, UK and global investment, public and private markets, active versus passive investments, as well as taking into account climate emergency, sustainability, and other environmental, social, and governance issues. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wolff. Thank you, Councillor Dennett. Question 8 is Jenny Lennon-Wood. Please.
Dorset Trades Union Council. Weymouth and Portland's economy has been in decline since the 1990s, leaving a deprived community dependent on low-paid, insecure jobs. Dorset Council has repeatedly dismissed proposal by Dorset Trades Union Council and Weymouth and Portland Action on Wages to address the resultant poverty and deprivation. Can you provide substantiated evidence of any Dorset Council actions that have created or enabled the creation of well-paid, good-quality jobs in Weymouth and Portland, or succeeded in persuading local employers to improve the pay and conditions of existing jobs? I won't read out my statement, but I would urge you all to look at it, please.
That's all right, it's gone. Thank you, Jenny. I would like to ask, please, for question 9, Professor Marfleet to read his answer so that I can invite Tony Ferrari, Councillor Tony Ferrari, to respond to both questions. Thank you.
Chair, hello. My question is very brief and I would like to follow it with a statement. Thanks. So the question is as follows. A new report, Forgotten Towns, Weymouth, Portland and the Coastal Economy provides detailed and compelling evidence of economic decline and increased social deprivation in South Dorset. Will Dorset Council finally accept responsibility for its negligence in addressing these issues and undertake to join without delay a task force to focus actively upon remedial policies? And I'll now make my statement. Dorset Council has on several occasions declined to recognise...
Excuse me, Professor Marfleet. I think you were asked to ask a question, not both. Can I just have... Could you just hold there while I get clarification on this, please? I understand that you were asked not to read your statement because of the constraints of time.
I received no such communication. None.
Okay, in which case, please continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It seems that councillors of the majority group wish to avert their eyes from the reality. We, the authors of the report, are providing an opportunity for the council to take a different approach. Our new report sets out in detail the record of decline in South Dorset over several decades, starting with the loss of 6,500 jobs at defence sites and many private businesses in the 1990s. The report presents compelling evidence of the predicament of local communities and particularly of young people who face a cul-de-sac effect in which low wages and thin job prospects prompt them to leave. Often they never return. The implications for Dorset are alarming. We have an ageing population and a workforce in which the young are voting with their feet. Years ago, planners in Dorset talked about a demographic time bomb, and the time bomb is ticking relentlessly. In February 2019, Councillor Gary Suttle told this meeting in a personal statement that for decades, the council and its predecessor had failed to provide policies that could address economic decline and social deprivation, and that inadequate infrastructure held back development. Almost 3 years later, there's been no progress. Weymouth and Portland is still among the coldest of cold spots, is what the government calls it, in the UK for social mobility, with levels of family poverty that shame us all. Economic policies based upon neoliberal principles have since the 1990s played the key role in determining the fate of Weymouth and Portland, asserting that the market will provide growth and prosperity. It's against this background that local authorities and development agencies have abstained from constructive engagement, producing in South Dorset a record of headlong economic decline and multiple deprivation. Nationally, It's clear that discredited neoliberal policies lie behind the paralysis and near collapse of the present government, with profound implications for many members of this council. We can learn from these failures, nationally and locally. Our report proposes a series of sustained interventions to provide critical infrastructure and support for the most disadvantaged in a low-wage seasonal economy. An investment zone won't do the job. The last thing we need in Weymouth and Portland is a bonfire of planning regulations and more ill-paid, highly exploitative.
Excuse me, sir, could you finish now because you're on?
Thank you very much. I'm not surprised.
Thank you. Excuse me, Councillor O'Leary. Thank you. Please be quiet. No, sir. You've gone well over your time, and I was accommodating in the first place. Thank you. I will now ask Councillor Tony Ferrari, portfolio holder for economic growth, assets and property, to respond to question 7 and question 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This report has already been aired in the press. Can I quote from my comments to the Echo about its contents? I understand Weymouth quite well. I live there. Weymouth and Portland do need support. We welcome all evidence that supports our case. Having said that, this report is quite disappointing. One of its 4 recommendations is that Dorset should implement the real living wage. Dorset, supported by our trade unions, joined the collective bargaining agreement for all councils. We don't negotiate our staff salaries, it's done nationally. If they agree the real living wage, that's what we'll pay. If not, we don't intend to break the collective bargaining agreement. The report also recommends that the LEP should promote meaningful investment in road, rail and infrastructure. The LEP's been closed down for some time now as a government vehicle for delivering finance. About 80% of their staff have moved on. They never had a major role in rail or road policy. Now they have none. The last 2 recommendations are exactly what Dorset should not be doing. The report recommends undertaking a review, establishing an action group, commissioning a wider review, obviously the first review wasn't enough, and creating a liaison group. This is Weymouth at its worst. Lots of talk, no action. So what should be happening in Weymouth? Actually, exactly what Dorset Council is doing now. We've taken out the rails, done a fabulous job of improving Custom House Quay, worked with partners to improve the station forecourt, and with it, the first experience of visitors arriving by train. Opened the children's home on Dorchester Road to keep Weymouth children in need of accommodation closer to family, friends and school. Underpinned Oldcastle Road to stop it collapsing, cutting off the houses at the end. Gave a new allotment in Preston to Weymouth Town Council. Put solar panels on a number of schools and council buildings around the towns. These reduce our carbon footprint and also replace the now very expensive gas. Buildings include Westfield College, Bingham Valley and Conifers schools. We've opened the Nest shop for families. We helped open the Nest family shop for families finding times tough in Littlemore, and agreed with government that they will give Weymouth £100 million to repair the harbour walls to cope with the effects of climate change. This is the sort of practical improvement that Dorset Council should be doing, not setting up a commission and action groups to waste more time and more money. Can I add a few brief comments to the address? Sorry, moving away from my microphone. To address Jenny Lennon-Wood's questions regarding jobs. The Council continues to support job creation in Dorset. Specifically in Weymouth and Portland, we have relocated the Children's Locality Team, approximately 115 staff, from Dorchester to the Weymouth office. Approved planning permission for a range of residential, commercial and leisure developments, including 500 houses at Littlemore, new commercial developments at Osprey Quay, new retail units at Mercery Road, which will bring hundreds of permanent, non-seasonal, high-quality jobs to the town. As mentioned above, we've progressed on completing the rails, Customs House Quay, the station forecourt, the Children's Home, Oldcastle Road, won government support for an absolutely enormous harbour wall improvement. Added to the works on the approved planning applications, these projects will deliver hundreds of jobs for contractors and local suppliers, lasting for decades into the future. As Thank you. This decline's continued under many councils. The next report will show that Weymouth's recovery started on the 2nd of May 2019 when this council was elected with responsibility for Weymouth's future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferrari, and I'm sorry I cut you off in your prime, so to speak. Question 10 is by Tracy Cosey, and I believe on Teams.
Hello, can you hear me okay? I'm on my mobile, so I've got two questions. I will read the preamble, which is just one line, because I think it helps to contextualise the question, if that's okay. So the first question is, along with the RSPB, the Wildlife Link and the National Trust, Dorset Climate Action Network has serious misgivings about the introduction of investment zones as a way forward for sustainable growth within Dorset. Dorset supports an agenda for sustainable growth so that we can meet our county target of net zero by 2050. In the light of the objections nationwide, as well as the precariousness of our own situation, can we have a commitment from Dorset Council that you will not allow any environmental standards to be relaxed in the name of investment? And I have a second question. Is it okay to read that also?
You can, but they will receive answers from two different people, if that's okay.
Okay, I'll wait if that's easier.
Okay, so I will ask, please. No, the answer to question 10 will be covered by Councillor Spencer Flower as part of his leaders' briefing. So if you wouldn't mind, Tracy, move on to question 11, and then we can get Councillor Bryan to answer that question. Thank you.
Okay, so this is quite a long question, so sorry about that. But we know that Council has been committed to a climate and ecological emergency strategy since 2021. I feel that the fact that this is an emergency is being forgotten by us. Can the climate and ecological emergency strategy be included in the strategies that support all 5 themes column of the Dorset Council delivery plan, rather than at the top of the renamed Protecting Our Natural Environment, Wildlife and Ecology column, so that we can be sure that all priorities within the Council plan need to consider their impact on our commitment to net zero by 2050 for the whole county?
Thank you very much, Tracy. I will now ask Councillor Ray Bryan, portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and Environment, to respond to your question 11. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Tracy, for the question. The Refresh Council Plan 2022 to 2024 sets out our commitment and continued focus on the climate and ecological emergency as one of our 5 overarching priorities. This means that our commitment to drive the ambitions within the strategy will be approached at the most strategic level, influencing how we transition our own operations and how we develop policies that impact on Dorset. This priority reflects our commitment to the natural environment with outcomes related to carbon neutrality and climate risks, positive land management, including the protection of local wildlife, efficient management and maintenance of our highways, coasts and green spaces, and an improved harbour service offer. As highlighted in the Council's plan, many of the priorities are cross-cutting, and our commitment to embed the principles of the climate and ecological strategy into how we run as an organisation remains steadfast. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. Moving smartly on, please. We're already on 30 minutes. Question 12 will be read by Vicky Alcote. Thank you.
Hello, I've got two questions on behalf of Dorset Climate Action Network. This is the first one. As a result of the government's recent policy statement on energy, will Dorset Council now adopt a more proactive approach to onshore wind developments where appropriate and help deliver clean, cheap and renewable energy for Dorset more rapidly? Do you want me to ask the second one at the same time?
If you wouldn't mind, please, Vicky, thank you.
Sure. I am missing out the preamble, which explains the context. Following news of the closure of Leaker's Bakery in Bridport, will Dorset Council now adopt a more flexible approach and make it easier to install renewable energy such as solar on older buildings and in conservation areas? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vicky. And we will ask, excuse me, Councillor David Walsh, portfolio holder for planning, to respond.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Vicky. The answer to your first question, the government's growth plan is seeking to accelerate delivery of infrastructure, including prioritising the delivery of national policy statements for energy and bringing onshore wind planning policy in line with other infrastructure. This is a positive commitment to changing the current position, and we are awaiting further detail and associated updates to national planning policy in order to enable changes at the local level. In the meantime, planning decisions need to accord with the current national planning policy framework. Dorset Council remains committed to securing a carbon-neutral Dorset, and work will continue on reviewing existing development plan policies in tandem with a climate and ecological emergency strategy to secure this commitment. This is likely to be through a package of measures aimed at maximising energy efficiency, delivering renewable energy through the most appropriate sources for Dorset, enhancing our natural places and biodiversity, and promoting climate change resilience. In answer to the second question, Dorset Council's Climate and Ecological Emergency Strategy and Action Plan aims to secure a carbon-neutral future for Dorset. However, we also have a strategy responsibility to give great weight to the conservation of designated heritage assets. These need not be conflicting objectives, and so it is important to find sensitive solutions to reduce fossil fuels energy use in ways that minimise harm to such assets, whether through improved energy efficiency measures or appropriate renewable energy installations. In order to achieve this outcome, we intend to provide more guidance to affected owners and tenants to help with finding solutions which reduce carbon emissions and energy costs, but in ways that are appropriate to the heritage asset. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Question 14 has been submitted by Jane Ashdown, who is not attending, so her question will receive a written response. And all these questions and answers will be in the minutes of the meetings. Thank you. So question 15 is from Mike Allen.
Thank you, Chair. May I ask, please, when does Dorset Council intend to publish its summary of the 2021 draft local plan consultation, and to tell the public in more detail how it intends to respond to the many comments made in the consultation? Thank you.
Thank you. There's a suggestion here that because questions 15, 16, 17 and 18 are extremely similar, that we ask all the questions and then get one response from Councillor Walsh. Would that be satisfactory, sir? I'll take that a yes then. Would that arrangement be satisfactory, Mr. Allen?
Probably no.
We need to move this along. We're over
We
time.
are already over time, sir. It's at my discretion that we're keeping going at all, if you don't mind. So we will go on to question 16, please, from Peter Bowyer. 16 and 17. Sorry, Mr. Bowyer.
First question. Has the Dorset Council obtained government permission to extend the period for the Dorset local plan? And second, when will the full council be discussing the proposed delay to the Dorset local plan?
Thank you very much, sir. Our last question is question 18 from Giles Watts. I've been advised that he's not attending, so could I ask Councillor David Walsh to stand up smartly, please, and give a response? Thank you, David. Give a response to certainly 3 questions, and Mr. Watts will receive his in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. At attention. As several questions have been submitted covering the same issues around the local plan timetable, I intend to give a single answer covering them all. In relation to our previous discussions with government, we are waiting to hear from the new Minister, Simon Clarke, and we'll let you know as soon as we do. The programme for the next stages of the local plan preparation is set out in the revised local development scheme that was agreed by Cabinet this month. At the publication stage, a full draft plan will be published and everyone will have the opportunity to make comments. All the representations received at that stage will be considered by the inspector who holds the public examination into the plan. As recognised in the questions, we had a large number of responses to the previous consultation, all of which will be taken into account in revising the plan. The changes to the plan will need to be agreed by Cabinet and full council, and officers' recommendations for changes will be in the papers for those meetings. As stated in the report to Cabinet, if it is later decided that an additional stage of consultation is needed before coming to these decisions, then a further amendment to the programme would need to be agreed by Cabinet. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walsh. That comes to the end of agenda item 6. Agenda item 7 is public participation, petitions and deputations, and we have none this evening. Agenda item 8 is announcement and reports from the leader. So I'll hand you over to Councillor Spencer Flower. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm going to cover 4 main items this evening. The support we're offering to help the cost of living, the Homes for Ukraine scheme, our expression of interest for investment zones, and our budget challenges. Because I think they're all really important things which, and I know in members in this chamber have all got an interest in one way or another. I will pick out a few, I will publish this bulletin after the meeting tonight, but I will just dwell on a couple of bits around the cost of living crisis because there's a lot of work being done to try and support the folk of Dorset who are struggling a little bit, some are, with the current situation with inflation doing what it's doing. You know, we're directing financial aid to households in greatest need, better access to housing services, urging people to act early. And I think that's a really key thing. Don't leave it to the last minute where it really does become a crisis. Get in early if you're struggling, and I'm sure help will be around. And signposting support on money, debt benefits and budgeting, and food and housing and mental health. Some of the key things and we've also got things like warm welcome, you know, working to help people stay warm during the winter time, and energy efficiency and so on. So I won't dwell too long on that one, but because I want to spend a bit more time on investment zones, which I know is a topic that many of you in this chamber would like to know a little bit more about. But the next thing I've touched on is the Homes to Ukrainian scheme, and Dorset Council providing an additional winter payment of £1,000 to all Homes for Ukraine hosts, and a further £250 a month to hosts continuing to provide refuge for the guests after the 6 months period. Homes for Ukraine hosts have been receiving £350 a month as a thank you. So we are working on that, and I think it shows our commitment as a country to try and help those that are in genuine need of refuge during what is a particularly difficult time for their country. Earlier on, we had questions relating to the investment zone, and I've made a statement in my Leaders' Bulletin, but I'm going to be more fulsome in response not only to the questions, but also to flesh out some of the key aspects of what we've done and why we're doing it this evening. So Dorset Council has been named as one of the 38 authorities the government recognises as being keen to be involved. Because I was asked, well, keen. I said, yes, I was keen to be involved. Don't know what you want me to do, but let's have a look and see what there's offered. The paper's not saying that these areas will benefit from an investment zone, and it's clear on the process by which zones are allocated or awarded, other than to say that they want to deliver zones across all parts of the UK. Historically, the process of awarding enterprise zone status and free ports have been competitive, and expect any selection of process to require Dorset to set out its benefits to government of awarding investment zone status. Dorset Council has on Friday submitted 3 expressions of interest to government for potential investment zones. We had 2 weeks to do that, and I commend all the officers and the others that put the effort in to do that in such a very short time scale, and the quality of what they put in I thought was superb. So if I just dwell on where we're talking, Weymouth, and some of you will have seen probably some of this in the media, not everyone will have done, so I'm going to dwell on that, and I'm going to say what it is. Weymouth, several regeneration sites around the waterside of Weymouth, harbour and marina. The proposal is to redevelop unused sites to provide homes and jobs, the opportunity for commercial and leisure development, and these sites are within the adopted Weymouth Town Centre Master Plan. Portland, the port area, offering opportunities for commercial and business operations, and a residential site at Castletown. It should be noted that the proposed locations for an energy recovery facility at Portland Port, currently going through the planning process, is explicitly excluded from the expression of interest, just to make that clear. And Wool, the third one, a site adjacent to the existing Dorset Innovation Park, to build on the success there by offering further investment and development opportunities for key sectors, including advanced engineering and manufacturing. Currently, the guidance accompanying investment zone states when proposers come forward the investment zone, they will benefit from a liberating planning process. There is, as yet, no detail about what this process may or be or how it will be implemented alongside the existing planning process. Local development orders, LDOs, are referred within the expressed interest documentation and may be a mechanism to be used to prepare investment zones. LDOs require engagement and formal consultation with statutory agencies and public before implementation, are also required to comply with both the environmental impact assessment regulations and habitat regulations. This is answering some of the questions that were asked earlier. Should any of the councils submit sites be successful in reaching the next stage of the process, the council will examine both the process and any accompanying guidance before formally committing. It is understood that these new investment zones will accelerate development of infrastructure and drive economic growth by offering tax breaks for potential investors and simplified, reduced regulation and planning process. The aim is to attract new investment to create jobs. Touches on what Tony Ferrari was saying earlier in response to a question. It's not yet known when the government will announce decisions on expression of interest. We have to wait and see. We should welcome an opportunity to attract investment, improve infrastructure and create jobs in Dorset. The 3 proposed locations offer great potential for the economic development and are suitable for this kind of activity. Our expression of interest do not represent a commitment by the government or this council. We wait further details from government so we can assess the potential pros and cons of an investment zone before making any formal commitment following council processes. Any opportunities should support and enhance the ambitions set out in the Dorset Plan and meet the economic development aspirations, leading to improved social mobility, the latter being a particular concern to members across this chamber. Can I go on then? I've got a couple of other things I wanted to touch on. The budget challenges. I mean, every year we talk about this year is going to be a challenge. And I think this is probably one of the most challenging. But we have a duty to have a balanced budget, and that process will be carried forward. We've gone public and identified that currently we have a gap of 29 million, and I speak to leaders across the country. Ours is big, many bigger, many in a far worse place than we are. We've got our challenges, but we need to all collectively get together and find a way of bringing ourselves a balanced budget in due course. So the process will take place in the usual way with the budget cafes, where I think we found them extremely useful in the last couple of years. And I hope we continue to put the positive input into that across this chamber to get the best outcomes for the people of Dorset. And so you will be able to read this after the meeting, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader. Are there any questions pertaining to the Leader's report? Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Councillor Flower, I guess you can't really answer this question, but I just wonder what you think. Do you think the investment zones will still be there under a new Prime Minister and a new Chancellor, or will we have to think again?
The status quo exists until something different comes along.
Thank you, Kate. Right, we will move forward then to agenda item 9, questions from councillors. The first question is submitted by Maria Rowe. Councillor Maria Rowe.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Maria Rowe, and my ward is Coal Hill and Wimborne Minster East. UK homes leak the most heat in Europe, primarily because of lack of insulation. This costs people even more money, and the cost of heating a home has almost doubled, even with the recent government support. People are having to make the choice between heating or eating. Health issues amongst the vulnerable and elderly will increase because of lack of heating this winter. In Dorset, the most badly affected areas are West Dorset with 28% and North Dorset with 23% of homes insulated. Upgrading homes with insulation is the cheapest way to solve these problems. The performance report for healthy homes in Dorset over a 15-month period from March 2021 to June 2022 is as follows. In Dorset, 20 homes have had cavity wall insulation installed. 107 homes have had loft insulation, and 24 homes have had both cavity wall insulation and loft insulation. Inquiries to Healthy Homes Dorset from the public have rapidly increased, but more money is urgently needed from government. This is an emergency. What is Dorset Council doing to lobby government so that people of Dorset are supported to insulate their homes?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Rowe. We'll receive a response from Councillor Ray Bryan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and Councillor Rowe, can I thank you for the question? It's very close to my heart, let me tell you. Dorset Council is committed to influencing government on this issue. Absolutely committed. It influences government not only directly through responding to public consultations and contributing when invited to comment on policy and funding mechanisms, but also indirectly through its membership of the Association of Local Energy Officers and National Energy Action, which is the National Fuel Poverty Charity. I would add that I personally am in constant contact with people trying to get movement on this, and I will continue to do so for as long as I breathe.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Next, we have questions 2 and 3 submitted by Councillor John Andrews and Councillor Matt Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for letting me to ask this question on behalf of myself and my fellow councillor in Sherborne. So on behalf of the two of us, myself and Councillor Matt Hall, I'd just like the preamble on February the 10th, 2022, a section of the House School was damaged on one of the narrowest parts of the 274-mile-long A30 that runs through Sherborne. This caused a safety aspect that needed to be fixed as soon as possible. The road safety team did an excellent job, as they always do in highways, and made sure that everybody was safe. They made a decision to shut the A30 and consequently the narrow Cornhill, which is adjacent to it. The road was closed for approximately 2.5 months until the site was surveyed and possible solutions were sought and scaffolding repositioned. The road is now partially open, but after 8 months, yes, 8 months, the issue has not been resolved, and temporary three-way traffic lights control the traffic, which caused huge delays on the A30. Unfortunately, this wall is part of a private residence, and due to the current legislation around confidentiality, the details of any negotiations repairs had to be kept confidential, which both Councillor Hall and myself have done, to much berating from our local residents. This matter has caused extreme disruption to the people and businesses of Sherborne, as it is one of only 2 routes from west to east or east to west through the town. And being an ancient market town and one of the most historic and beautiful towns in Dorset with narrow streets, it has seen large numbers of cars and commercial vehicles clogging up the streets, as some of you might have experienced when attending the recent civic service in honour of late Queen Elizabeth II. The public are naturally exasperated as to why this issue has taken so long to fix, as we are now in the 9th month. I know the local MP has been asking questions. I will ask that Dorset Council firstly explain to the public all the negotiations with the property owner that have gone on. Also, why the temporary traffic regulation under the TTRO has been extended until September 2023, which naturally is causing concern. And most importantly, when will work start on the Kit Hill issue?
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Are you happy to submit question 8 as well? No. Sorry, not question 8. Question 3. Excuse me.
Yes, separate, because I...
Okay, so we'll ask Councillor Ray Bryan to give you a response to your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and can I start off by thanking Councillor Hall and Andrews for their question. I recognise how disruptive the closure and traffic light control has been for people wanting to use the A30 through Sherborne. After the wall, forming part of the main building of 52 Ackerman Street, was hit on the 10th of February 2022, we have sought to keep everyone using the road, and this is the most important part, safe. And this is while we work with the landowner to provide a permanent solution. Once the wall has been temporarily stabilised, we remove the diversion and set up traffic lights to reduce the disruption. Rebuilding the wall is a complex and extremely technical task, for which there are only a limited number of specialist contractors with the right experience to carry out the work. I can confirm that officers and myself have been in continual dialogue with the owners of the property since the unfortunate accident that damaged the wall. Both Highways and Building Control have provided continual guidance so that Highway is kept safe and that the owners of the property can arrange for the necessary repairs. We are continuing our dialogue over this matter, and I can assure colleagues and the community of Sherborne that we are seeking a resolution as quickly as possible. I would also like to clarify that the 18-month traffic notice that runs until September 2023 is the same as it's always been. It hasn't been extended. It has never been given as an it has never been an indication as how long we expect the disruption to last. We always use on a TRO an extended period, so if things do run over, we don't have to go back and renew the TRO. I would like to place on record my thanks to the two local councillors, Councillor Hall and Councillor Andrews, for working with the team on solving this issue. I really do personally thank you both for being so helpful to me and the team.
Councillor Andrews, are you happy with that response?
Thank you very much, Councillor Bryan. We have been so working together on this, it's unbelievable. You must have been fed up with Councillor Hall's and my phone calls and emails over the last 8 months, because every week I suspect we wrote to you and phoned you. So thank you for that. But over the last couple of weeks, we've been very, very disappointed that the local MP for West Dorset has decided on social media he's had to call for Councillor Hall, whose fault it is that the wall has fallen down and been repaired, to blame him on social media and ask for his resignation. I don't know if any of you have seen that. I don't think that's right. I think the council, and I'd like some assurance that the executive of this council will be speaking to the local MP to actually explain to him the ward councillor's duties in this matter and what he's done to try and get it solved, if you would. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. So that's your supplementary question, was it? Could we just give assurance?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I think I summed it up in my thanks to the two councillors in my first section. You've been very cooperative. Like you, I was a bit shocked by what I read. I have met with the leader to discuss a way forward, and we shall be dealing with it over the next few days. Please be assured of that.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. So we will then, I will ask you to submit question 3, please.
Thank you once again, Madam Chairman, on behalf of myself and Councillor Hall. Once again, due to the ongoing problems on the adjacent Kit Hill and the traffic control that was already in place, it was decided that the major junction improvement work on the Newell in Sherborne would be brought forward, which was a very sensible suggestion. I have to say I'm very impressed with the Dorset Highways team for the effort and work they put into this project so far. However, it seems that the anticipated finish date of the mid to the end of October will now come and go. This is not only frustrating the Highways team, but also local residents, as it adjoins the Kit Hill issue. I understand that during the initial stage of work in August this year, while excavating the site, that an 11,000 volt cable was discovered and luckily was not broken during excavation. This could have resulted in extreme injury or even fatality. This, I am informed, is because the electricity company's plans were not correct. I'm now being informed that electricity company cannot complete the movement of this cable until mid-November. Can the portfolio holder for highways update the council as to when this movement of this cable will commence and the workforce can get back to the excellent job they're already doing?
Thank you very much, Councillor Andrews. Over to you, Councillor Bryan.
I think I'll just stay standing for the rest of the meeting. It's extremely frustrating that the electric company's plans were inaccurate. And I find that quite surprising and concerns me greatly, because we obviously do a lot of digging at various times, and I'd like to know where the cables are. On the 5th of August 2022, a high-voltage electricity cable was discovered on the site of Marston Road Junction Improvement Scheme. This cable, as we know, was not on the plans provided by the electricity company, Scottish and Southern Energy Network, known as SSEN. Unfortunately, the cable position meant it would need to be moved to allow certain sections of the works to proceed, and prompt action was taken to notify SSEN. Works on site continued on the areas not affected by the uncharted cable. SSEN Officers have visited the site and passed the work to their contractor. The timescales involved for the mobilisation of SSEN means that the junction works will now most likely not be complete by the 14th of November. Both I and the team are pushing SSEN to progress this work as quickly as possible. Once we have the SSEN date, we will then be able to programme the remaining works and provide an updated programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Councillor Andrew, did you have a supplementary?
I certainly do, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much for that explanation, Councillor Bryan. Detail as ever. Can we have some information on how far you've gone up the SSEN board, because I have trouble staying as well, and taken this and who it is, because it's totally, I know they're probably within their statutory, but it's totally out of order. So can you inform us how far you've gone up the board?
I should have stayed up. I think it would be wrong of me to give out names in a public meeting. So if I can write to you afterwards with the details, and hopefully you'll accept that.
Thank you very much. I will now ask Councillor Claire Sutton to invite her to ask her questions 4 and 5, if you will. Thank you.
I won't read out all of the preamble. On the 21st of September, the Dorset Echo reported on Dorset schools' exclusion rates. The 4 with the highest rates were all in Weymouth and Portland, that is, all of our secondary schools. Of these, the exclusion rates of the top 2, one of which is in my ward, were 5 times the national average. There is clearly a pattern here. For all the talk of levelling up, I think we're all aware that social mobility scores for Weymouth and Portland are among the very worst in the whole country. In this context, my questions are, what support does Dorset Council provide to excluded young people and their parents or carers to enable them to have a successful school life when they return to education? And what more can Dorset Council do to ensure that the disparity of opportunity between young people from Weymouth and Portland and their counterparts elsewhere in Dorset is reduced? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sutton. We have Councillor Andrew Parry to respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Sutton for the question. Dorset Children's Services are delivered locally by a multi-agency team, including family workers, educational psychologists, specialist teachers, inclusion leads and youth workers, who are able to wrap around the school's children and families. Each school has a linked family worker, inclusion lead, EP and specialist teacher. Joint planning meetings are held in each school termly and follow the graduated approach. The Dorset Education Board is a system leadership board for the education in Dorset, independently chaired by the former Education Minister, Stephen Twigg. The board has a number of foci, particularly to promote multi-agency and close peer working to raise standards, to close the disadvantage attainment gap, and to ensure that all children and young people thrive in their education. Board members include representation from Chesil. We have developed strong and trusting relationships with all our academy trusts, including the ones in Chesil. This has led to good collaboration, support and challenge. The academies in Chesil work closely with Educational Challenge leads and other locality staff. An example of this is the Excellent Reading Project, which was trailed across Chesil schools and due to its success is growing further this year. Local inclusion partnership meetings take place monthly in each locality. The ones in Chesil are attended by the Chesil schools and locality staff. They focus on children who are at risk of being permanently excluded, those who have a high number of suspensions, and those who are at risk of missing education. The locality suspension and exclusion data is shared with schools at this meeting. The decisions are made in relation to individual children whose additional needs supported to ensure that they have a successful school life. In addition, each school has regular inclusion meetings and inclusion panels attended by their Link Inclusion lead. We hold fortnightly inclusion oversight board meetings, which are multi-agency and prioritise vulnerable groups. The board focuses on ensuring rapid action is taken where a child is not in full-time education. We also have weekly inclusion lead manager briefings, which provides a strong focus on children with their social worker who are not in full-time education. These processes have led to much improvement in several areas. For example, in our work with children missing education, in August of the last academic year, 97% were no longer missing education. This is an increase of 10% on the previous academic year. Permanent exclusion from Dorset schools reduced to just 31 in the academic year for 2021-22, with 0 primary-aged permanent exclusions. This is a significant improvement on previous years, brought about through a whole system focus on good inclusive practice and building the schools and capacity of school staff to meet the needs of children in their schools. This has included therapeutic thinking training, a relational practice forum, and a Dorset-wide inclusion conference. Permanent exclusions in Chesills have decreased by 2/3 since 2018-19. Suspension in Dorset, including in the Weymouth and Portland area, have been increasing. This as they have been nationally following disruption caused by the pandemic. The work that the locality teams are doing with our partners, including schools and academies, to improve inclusive practice continues to be a focus. We are collecting live attendance and suspension data from our schools, which allows us to have a more robust focus on children with repeated suspensions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parry.
Andrew, that's extremely informative, but I don't think it really gets to the issue of the disparity between Weymouth and Portland and the rest of the county, and the fact that all 4 of our secondary schools are at the very top in terms of exclusion rates. There's been, this is a question, don't worry, there's been an email exchange, as you know, initiated by Councillor Jill Taylor, Chair of the Audit and, People and Health Overview Scrutiny Committee, to which Theresa replied that this would actually come before that committee. Could you confirm that that will be the case with a lens on why the disparity as well as just the larger numbers? Thanks.
Thank you for the supplementary question on that. I'm happy to confirm that, yes, indeed, the Executive Director has written to the Chair of that particular committee, confirming that we will be taking a piece of work for them. I wouldn't want to spoil that committee's enjoyment of that piece of work by going into too great a deal this evening. I'm sure they will no doubt want to pull it apart and analyse it in great detail. What I did want to make very clear is that when we set up the Chesil locality, additional resource was put in to reflect the widely accepted position that we knew that additional resource was required in order to tackle many of those social issues and social mobility concerns that we've all expressed across this council.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are you happy with that? I'm not going to, actually, I shouldn't be asking people if they're happy because it's just a recipe for trouble, isn't it? So I am moving along smartly. And I will ask Councillor Calvin-Clayton to submit question 6, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's been much talk about growth recently. In January 2021, the Royal Town Planning Institute published a research paper, Net Zero Transport. For a county like Dorset, it provides a vision of the near future that has net zero transport at the heart of its growth, while protecting and enhancing the rural character of its villages and surrounding countryside. Based on the idea of 15-minute communities, areas of growth are planned to achieve high levels of self-containment and facilitate local living. Car ownership is discouraged through the design of the public realm, through the development of integrated, frequent and affordable public transport on strategic mobility corridors, and through the repurposing of secondary country roads into car-free living lanes that enable residents of smaller towns and villages to access essential services, facilities and mobility hubs by bike without the fear of fast-moving traffic. Has Dorset Council considered placing such a vision at the heart of its growth strategy? And secondly, doing so would of course require the total integration of its local plan, its local transport plan, and its climate and ecological emergency strategy. Is such an integration something the Council would consider?
Thank you, Councillor Clayton, and we will ask Councillor Ray Bryan to answer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Clayton, for the question. Taking action to address the climate and ecological emergency and deliver economic growth requires a joined-up approach across the Council and with wider partners. There are important synergies between Dorset's economic growth strategy, which recognises the role that transport plays in creating healthier lifestyles, better access to jobs, combating climate change and improving air quality. The Council's climate and ecological emergency strategy, which commits to helping Dorset become a carbon neutral county by 2050. The emerging Dorset local plan, which plays a key role managing the location of development and promoting the provision of active travel and the use of public transport, and the local transport plan, which considers improvements to all major forms of transport to support the economic, social and environmental improvement of the Dorset area. The Council is awaiting the new local transport plan guidance from the Department for Transport before starting work on producing a new LTP. Following delays in publishing this guidance, it is now expected in spring 2023. Further integration of these strategies will be explored during their preparation and review. However, full implementation of many interventions within these strategies would be dependent on securing significant funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Okay, so we move on to question 7 and 8 from Belinda Borden. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Volunteers in Lyme Regis and Charmouth have been working with the West Country Rivers Trust to monitor water quality, and they're liaising with the water companies, the Environment Agency and the local councils to investigate and mitigate the effects of excess sewage discharges. Since this citizen science work on the River Lim and the Lower Char Community Project got underway this year, unacceptable numbers of sewage discharges have been identified in the rivers and the sea, and frightening levels of E. coli and intestinal enterococci have been reported in the sea. In this context, my question is, could Dorset Council help us locally by engaging with the water companies, the Environment Agency and the river monitoring groups to ensure the best water quality monitoring processes are put in place, that any problems are swiftly investigated, and that the mechanisms already requested by a fellow river monitor to the head of planning on the 12th of October, requested in the planning system to ensure all natural and man-made mitigations and improvements to environmental health are undertaken to be put in place before applications are approved. Should I read the second?
Thank you. It's entirely up to you, or you can have an answer separately.
Would Dorset Council write to the Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, if we have one, to urge the government not to scrap environmental and health protections, but instead strengthen them to ensure that we protect and enhance our natural freshwater and marine resources, to boost the opportunities for nature-based solutions to the climate and ecological crises, and for the natural environment of Dorset, upon which the economy, health and well-being of our residents depends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Borden. I am going to ask Councillor David Walsh to answer your first question, question 7. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Borden. Thank you. Dorset Council, in its role as a local planning authority, engages with water companies, the Environment Agency, the local flood risk authority, and a host of other stakeholders when preparing statutory development plans to ensure that effective planning policies are in place for managing planned future growth. We also consult such organisations on certain planning applications which have implications for the water environment. In reaching decisions, the local planning authority will consider the expert advice of specialist consultees and, where it is deemed necessary, can refuse applications if they are likely to lead to unacceptable harm. We may also require mitigation to be put in place prior to development commencing. If this is needed to ensure the development is acceptable, as long as it is capable of coming forward in a timely manner. This is not always justified, and in such situations, we would not be in a position to withhold planning consents. There are also occasions where the longer-term delivery of key infrastructure is funded through the Community Infrastructure Levy, whereby each development contributes a proportionate cost towards its future delivery, and we can secure this through a legal agreement. We therefore need to consider each case on its merits. However, the local planning authority should not duplicate the statutory responsibilities of other bodies or organisations, and we will take advice from expert consultees if there is any doubt about where responsibilities lie. Thank you for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. Shall we move on to an answer to question 8, Councillor? Okay. Thank you.
And again, thank you for the question. Working closely with the organisations such as the Environmental Agency that has a key role in maintaining and improving water quality, Dorset Council is committed to delivering on the ambitions contained within its climate and ecological emergency strategy. There are a number of legislative frameworks within which we can operate, and we also continue to liaise with government on how existing environment protections can be both improved and enhanced. Under the Environment Act 2021, there is a mandate for local nature recovery strategy. Dorset Council also responded to the government's recent Nature Recovery Green Paper, Protected Sites and Species consultation in May 2022. This included future options for wildlife designated sites. In the consultation response, we supported options which provided even greater protection to the most important wildlife sites, emphasising the need for protected sites to be given the same level of protection that is currently given to European sites. Dorset Council places great value upon the protection and stewardship of our unique environment, reflected in commitments expressed in our policies, including the statutory local plans and our climate and ecological emergency strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Councillor Borden, are you happy with that answer, or did you have a supplementary? Thank you. Okay. So we are now on agenda item 10, the refreshed council plan 2022 to 2024. And I'm going to ask Councillor Jill Haynes to introduce the report and propose the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. A bit creaky sitting this long. Good evening, councillors. This is a refresh of our corporate plan, which was last reviewed about a year ago. But we're in a very different position, aren't we? Things have changed considerably in that time. The document sets out at a strategic level the council's overall ambitions going forward and sets the key targets. These can be very dry documents, but I was determined to ensure that this was a living piece of work and relevant to the challenges facing the council. This year, we have put greater focus on outcomes for people and included the 10 cabinet commitments announced by the leader in May of this year. Also included are our transformation plans, which have key areas of improvement for our customers, ongoing service improvement, and our response to legislative change, such as the adult social care reforms. The plan demonstrates our continued focus on improving services for people, as well as protecting and enhancing our local places. In creating this refresh of the plan, we have also reviewed our key performance indicators, bringing them in line with our core priorities and looking to keep them on a relevant strategic level in all the documents. For the first time, we have also published our delivery plan to show clearly how each priority will be delivered and how we will measure success, thus giving a much greater transparency to the delivery process. The delivery plan is designed to be regularly reviewed to make sure that we can respond quickly and effectively to national legislation and the current changing financial landscape. I am very grateful to both of the overview committees who spent much time and effort considering the drafts of this plan, and without whose input we wouldn't have such a comprehensive refresh of the future for our council. We will continue working with partners, including the Integrated Care Partnership, to assess and provide joined-up health and public health social care services across Dorset. I then can say to councillors, a webinar for all councillors will be held on the 24th of November, where you'll be able to hear more about how the plan is being delivered, and we'll be looking at the key achievements to date. And then there will be 3 launch sessions for staff in November, early December. And this will then lead into the service planning so that we can clearly develop the golden thread from the strategic plan through to the service delivery. Chairman, I'm pleased to propose the adoption of the refreshed plan.
Thank you very much, Councillor Haynes. And Councillor Jesperson, did you wish to second that?
Councillor Jesperson, Hillfort Ward. Yes, I think this is an excellent document. It's been seen and worked on by both the overview committees, so I'm very pleased to second it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jesperson. Councillor Heatley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A lot of work gone into this, and it's good to review these things every year. I'd like to make 3 points. First of all, the change to the strapline, to the title of the economic priority, I think it's great. The word growth has gone. I know Councillor Bryan perhaps hasn't quite spotted that yet, but it refers to driving economic prosperity. I think that is much better. Economic growth means growth in GDP. GDP is just money, and there are many bad things in GDP. And I think this is a more nuanced approach, and I know growth has survived in the small print, but nevertheless, I think it's an important symbolic change. Second point, I think it is right to join the climate and ecological emergency priority with the unique environment one. I think this is a wise thing to do. They are, the words I took from what Councillor Bryan had to say was positive land management earlier on this evening. They're all about land to a large extent, and I think greater ambition in terms of how we change our land use, and I could go on at length about that, but I won't, is important. Third point, and I may have misunderstood something here, in the old plans, the 2 we had before, there were 2 lists after every item. They were lists about what we were going to do and how we were going to achieve it. And if you look at those lists, there were about 150 or so items in those lists. They are not in the plan anymore. Now, they may be in the delivery plan, but it's not here. I can't help but, and okay, there was a replacement by 10 things the Cabinet sees as priorities. But those 150 or so detailed items are really the practical core of what we do. And I think it's very bad, actually, to remove them from the plan. Councillor Flower referred earlier to the budget challenge we're facing and the budget cafes that are coming along. I think one of the questions I will be asking at the budget cafes is what is happening to all those 150 items. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heatley. Councillor Ireland.
Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Heatley, for at least 2 positives from you, which was really good out of 3. I think that what we were trying to do with this new plan is we're ensuring that the plan sets out our strategic aims. That's why you haven't got great long lists of stuff in it. And what we're going to be doing with the delivery plan, and which you will see, and I hope you will attend the webinar, is that is where we will be working with the service managers for we need to do this and this is how we'll do it. So you will see that on the 24th of November. Thank you.
Councillor Ireland.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to concentrate on one fairly small part of the document, but very important, as I'm sure you'll all agree. So as we've seen from the public tonight, there are huge concerns about the delay to the local plan. And I share those concerns. Our planning committees have to deal with obsolete inherited local plans containing policies written a decade ago and no longer fit for purpose. In the meantime, we have to scramble to meet 5-year housing supply targets. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, and we reject appropriate developments and improve inappropriate ones because this council has failed in its founding promise to have a new plan in place by next year. Arguably, many of the original consultation responses could be regarded as out of date and should be repeated, as has been mentioned earlier. And I note that the document also refers to an admittedly prior commitment to a new garden town, but still neglects to say where exactly that will be, where many of us suspect we know where it is. This seems to me like an attempt to obfuscate the real agenda and avoid public scrutiny in advance of the upcoming 2024 elections.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. I thought that my colleague here, the portfolio holder for planning, had made the situation quite clear, both at Cabinet and on other meetings, in emails that he'd sent out as to why we were not in a position to move forward with this plan. I think that it's entirely right that it is in the corporate plan, the council plan going forward. But there are so many reasons, and I'm not going to clog this meeting up now because I know that most of the rest of the councillors have listened to that and know what the reasons are that we can't go forward with this at the moment. So I would just say that if you'd like to attend the webinar, that perhaps you might be further enlightened.
Thank you. I can't see anybody else wishing to speak. So we have a proposer from Councillor Haynes, which has been seconded. The recommendation has been seconded by Councillor Sherry Jesperson. And I think we will go to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The vote is now open. Just a couple more votes to come in. Has everybody voted? Thank you. The vote's now closed. And the results of the vote are 58 in favour, 3 against and 4 abstentions. It's therefore carried.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 11 is the Community Governance Review. I will ask Councillor Spencer Flower to introduce the report and propose the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, colleagues, you'll recall back in July 22, we agreed the recommendations as set out, but we excluded certain parishes and Weymouth Town Council from that decision because we felt there needed to be a further piece of work done in that respect. And all we're doing tonight, actually, is agreeing the terms of reference for that further review in respect of the parishes mentioned in the report. And I'm not going to dwell on this, Chairman. It's a matter of process. I hope colleagues across the chamber will support it. I'll propose it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Flower. Councillor Brown, do I have you down to second the recommendation? Thank you.
Most certainly, Chair. As Councillor Flower highlighted, this is procedural. So, yeah, let's crack on. More than happy to second.
Thank you. Do we have anybody wishing to speak on this? Right. In that case, it has been duly proposed and seconded, and we will go straight to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. The vote is now open. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 63 in favour, 1 abstention. The motion is therefore carried.
Thank you, Susan. Agenda item 12, the role of health and wellbeing boards. I'm going to ask Councillor Peter Wolfe to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. This report updates members about the developing role and purpose of the Health and Wellbeing Board within the integrated care system, and we've already talked about the ICP and the ICB, which is the new overarching functions that are managing what used to be the CCG. Sam Crowe, who is the Director of Public Health for Dorset as a whole and works for BCP and for Dorset Council, will be the main interface between the 2 Health and Wellbeing Boards, the two councils in terms of their other health functions, and the ICP and the ICB. And I'm very grateful for Sam, who has sat there extremely patiently whilst we've been discussing. And I'm going to ask Sam, as I agree with the Chair, to explain the purpose and nature of this paper, and I will be happy to take any questions at the end. Sam, thank you very much for waiting. Can we hand over to Sam, please?
Thank you very much, Chair, and good evening, Council. So I've just got a sort of short statement, really, which provides a bit more colour to the background in the paper. The recommendation is really about positioning the Health and Wellbeing Board so that it becomes an effective interface with the Integrated Care Partnership and the work of the new Integrated Care Board, which will be responsible for delivery of the new Integrated Care Strategy. And that work involves both councils. The legislation that was passed in the summer created integrated care systems across England, and that resulted in a new Integrated Care Board, which is now known as NHS Dorset. The Integrated Care Partnership sits above NHS Dorset, and that was also established on the 1st of July. The partnership's responsible for developing our first integrated care strategy and holding all of the partners in the system to account for its delivery. But beneath that partnership, our integrated care system will have 2 places based around the footprint of each council. So there'll be a place representing Dorset Council and a place representing the BCP Council residents. But the legislation was less clear on the role of health and wellbeing boards in the system. The boards already existed as statutory boards with responsibility to advance prevention and integration. And councils and the NHS, as well as wider partners, have worked through these boards for some years before the development of the integrated care system. And their role was really to develop health and wellbeing strategies that focus on improving outcomes for residents in each area. But my personal view is they were never really connected as effectively as they could be in our system. So the opportunity that we have in the new integrated care system is to put commissioning much closer to communities in each place, supported by a better understanding of the priorities and needs and how they differ in each of those places. And that's where the Health and Wellbeing Board can make a real impact because of its statutory role in preparing a needs assessment that can inform those priorities. So the recommendation tonight is really about ensuring that the Health and Wellbeing Boards are recognised as the strategic lead bodies for each place, and in this context that's Dorset Council, so that they can provide a clear steer on the issues the integrated care system should be tackling. Both Health and Wellbeing Boards have a new duty through the legislation, which is to receive a copy of the Integrated Care Board's forward plan and to comment on how well it reflects the priorities and recommendations as set out in the Integrated Care Strategy. And although that sounds a bit complicated, it's a really powerful opportunity for the board to independently comment and assess on the progress that our system's making to deliver against these priorities. And it's another reason for recommending the change and the addition to the terms of reference in the paper, which is the core recommendation before you tonight. This duty isn't to be confused with the scrutiny duty that councils have for major changes to health services, and we'll need to work through how that responsibility is carried out effectively as the integrated care system evolves. But I hope you'll support the recommendation tonight, as it gives us a real opportunity to position our health and wellbeing boards in the best place to steer the development and delivery of the strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Crowe.
Can I thank Sam Crowe, the Director of Public Health, for making that extremely helpful statement, which I knew was coming, but the fact is he is extremely authoritative and he's working with both health and wellbeing boards, both portfolio holders and the ICB. I therefore formally propose this and look for a seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Wharf. I believe Councillor Somper's got her hand up.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. Councillor Somper, Beacon Ward, I very much like to second this, please. It is going to be a very strong vehicle.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from it? So, Councillor Ezard, is that you waving over there? I was going to say that one.
Councillor Beryl Ezard, Wareham Ward. Oh, thank you. Yes, I welcome this update on the role of the Health and Wellbeing Board in the new integrated care system. However, how can we as the members, apart from the Health and Wellbeing Board members, agree on an addition to the terms of reference of the Dorset Health and Wellbeing Board when the terms of reference are not included in the paper? I therefore cannot support the recommendation as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ezard. Councillor Orrell. Oh, sorry, we have an answer for you.
Thank you. The terms of reference haven't changed. They're on the Dorset website. These are additions to the terms of reference. I'm happy to send them to you, but they are available if you look for them. And the terms of reference have been there for quite a long time. So these are changes in order to reflect the changed nature of the health and wellbeing boards.
Thank you, Councillor Wolfe. Councillor Orrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I welcome the report. I probably will vote for it. It is a sensible move. In my observation, like Sam Crowe, the Health and Wellbeing Boards were an excellent organisation, had the right people on them from 2012, but they didn't have a lot of authority or power. And rather than invent another body, it makes perfect sense to reinvigorate this existing one, which has been working for some time. It's got its relationships all sorted. And so for that reason, I do back it, but I do note some words missing. I've been reading these I've been sad enough to be reading these kind of reports for 20, 30 years, and I notice health inequalities seems to have vanished from the vocabulary. It could be that it's included in the general improving health and well-being, but it's not explicit. So I looked at the guidance, which is listed at the end of the document, the white papers, and it does still meant to include health inequalities. And why does this matter? Well, we've heard this evening, it matters already in employment, it matters in education, and it matters in health. There's a 10-year difference in life expectancy between different parts of Dorset. So I'd hope that although it's not explicit, it's still implicit in the functions of this board that it will look at inequalities. I see a nod. And in doing so, it needs to have membership for people that will stand up for the areas that need help. If you look at the Harbour Board, it has, and our scrutiny committees, they all have proportional membership and a more representative membership. And the Health and Wellbeing Board, in its statutory membership, its core membership, doesn't have that. So the question is, in order to fulfil its explicit aim, 2.2, of providing a strong focus for place, improving well-being, does it need to have more elected representatives on it so that the areas which are suffering have their voice heard? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Orrell. Over to Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Chairman. Let me cover two or three, and I may ask if I've covered all your questions. The first thing is health inequalities is in the original terms of reference, and I can assure you, and you have my word, that health inequalities is a really essential part of the board's function in order to identify strategies for addressing those. There are a number of partners on the board who add value in those areas, and I will, in a minute, if I'm not catching Sam Crow out, ask Sam if he would like to just confirm that. Can I also, this is a slight answer to your general points. The board is absolutely critical, but has been guilty of being something of a talking shop, in my opinion, for the last few years. And, well, I'm really glad you nod, because I wasn't quite sure you might agree with me on that. And what I'm doing is I'm changing the nature of the board, not just by these terms of reference, but by the way I will be managing it. We will not have reports other than those for decision, and any report which is for information will be for information, and people will be assumed to have read it and will be required to ask questions on that report before I get to the meeting, because I'm not going to have long rambling meetings discussing 200-page reports I've got no idea how I'm going to answer. So it is going to be much more rigorously and robustly managed, because we've got some serious issues to address. I'm going to be focusing on actions in order to make sure that we work effectively with the ICB and ICS, because one of the things we've got to do is we've got to make sure that the ICS and the ICB do what they're supposed to do and don't eat our lunch, and we do what we're supposed to do and we don't eat their lunch, and they don't transfer hospital discharges and various things like that over without discussing it with us and actually potentially transferring the costs, and we don't have things that we transport. So we need to have, strong fences make strong, good neighbours, and I am going to try and make sure that there's a very clear understanding. This is absolutely non-political, so I'm really grateful for the question, and we will work hard on that, because I think the Health and Wellbeing Board has a huge role to play in terms of prevention and in terms of equality, but initially it's got a major role to play in terms with identifying and making sure that we structurally fit with every other organisation. And to that event, and I will call you in a minute, Sam, to that event I have visited, and we spent an afternoon together, Jane Kelly, who is the chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board of BCP, because it was my view that if we didn't work together and operated a different regime, And I know there are differences between BCP, but in terms of the regime, it's really important that we work together. And so Jane and I met to try and make sure that you know, we didn't get, God forbid, somebody picking us off or treating us differently or whatever. So we're working together with the ICB, and we're going to make sure it operates effectively. Sam, I wonder if you could answer the question about twofold about health inequalities. Just hopefully you will confirm my hopefully quite strong support for that in terms of discussion and addressing, and the partnership is able to address the issues because we do have some very interesting skill sets across the piece. Thank you, Councillor Orrell.
Thank you, Councillor Wharf. Just to confirm very quickly, the Integrated Care Partnership Strategy, which is in the process of being written at the moment, will have a very, very strong focus on inequality. So in turn, both of the Health and Wellbeing Boards will be picking up that responsibility to make sure that all of the partners in the system in each place are reflecting that in their delivery plans. So that's just to sort of clarify the role of the board. It's perhaps not so much about direct delivery, but holding that really critical assurance role to make sure that what's coming forward through the Integrated Care Board is addressing some of those really, really key issues about inequality and access and experience of services that so often are reflected in the population health outcomes that we see.
Thank you very much. Next up we have Councillor O'Leary. I think nobody wants to speak then anymore. That being the case, we've given this a very good hearing, actually, Councillor Wharf. So I'm sorry, Councillor Christopher.
I feel obliged to talk on the basis we've heard a lot in this discussion about the economy and also transport. And of course, this government has actually introduced £1 million of capital allowances relief to businesses that invest in plant and machinery, which is going to help businesses throughout the country, including Weymouth and Portland. So there's lots of good things going there. But in terms of health and mental health, many of us like to use public transport wherever possible. And I find it very disappointing that where we improve railway lines in this county, including the work to improve the Heart of Wessex line, trade unions actually step in and stop people from actually travelling around our county by train. And maybe at some point we will look at the mental health aspects of this, and perhaps we can have a resolution to condemn the action at a future meeting should the continuing action continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Christopher. Councillor Somper, did you want to speak?
Thank you, Chairman. It was just really to point just to for Councillor Izzard that councillor questions and public questions can come through to the Health and Wellbeing Board. So that's a very effective way of feeding in.
Thank you. Well, if there's no other speakers, I think we will go to the vote. It has been properly proposed by Councillor Wharf, seconded by Councillor Somper, and I'd be grateful if you could vote as soon as Susan says you're allowed.
Thank you, Chairman. The vote is now open. Just a couple of more votes, please. The vote's now closed. The results of the vote are 61 in favour, 1 against. The motion is therefore carried.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, everybody. So next we have agenda item 13, the Harbour's governance. And I am going to ask Councillor Spencer Flower to introduce the report and propose the recommendations. Thank you, Spencer.
Chairman. This sits with me tonight because it's governance. I don't profess to know a vast amount about harbours management and all the other things, but there are people in this chamber that do. But what I would say is this is very much in keeping with how councils deal with harbour-type governance around the country. And the sort of, I know it's a local decision, but the sort of way in which we've dealt with it from the legacy councils has been a little different to others. So it was important to tidy this up and bring this to the council this evening. I think one of the, and I'm not going to read all of it because there's a lot of stuff in here, and I would say to both Ken Buchan and Jonathan Mayer, you know, a huge amount of work's gone into bringing this together. It hasn't been easy because there's lots of references we've had to make for how things have been done elsewhere to make sure we're using best practice and we're using a good governance, strong governance model. And I refer to page 74, where it talks about removing Harbour's business from full council meetings. There is insufficient time to scrutinise and question recommendations. Instead, Harbour business will be published in the Cabinet Forward Plan, ensuring visibility for both place, resource overview committees and both scrutiny committees. So there's a lot more this council member involvement in this process rather than leaving it to a harbour committee that have had outside people on it. We're there for their expertise, but they shouldn't be voting on the use of council taxpayers' money. So I will propose this recommendation, Chairman. I believe there is a seconder.
Thank you, Councillor Flower. I believe we have Councillor Mark Roberts, second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm delighted to second this as ward member for Chesilbank and also chair of the Harbours Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Anybody got anything to? Councillor Fry.
I'm concerned that this proposal is not the best for the people of Dorset. It hands all the authority to one person, the portfolio holder, who in my opinion is a very capable and competent member. But we have seen recently in national government, holders can change rapidly for a variety of reasons and may not be as good. Reasons for this change include a more responsive decision-making and the ability to apply for grants quicker. Currently, the Harbour Board meets only 4 times per year. Why has it not been considered for them to meet more often, more frequently, such as other decision-making committees do, like planning? A review of the decision-making process of the panel will also ensure that elected members are accountable for decisions made. The Harbour Board is cross-party, works well and functions well. With some tweaking, it could be, as it should be, far more responsive to operational demands. Can somebody explain to me why we don't continue and tweak what we already have, please?
Councillor Flower, could I ask Councillor Roberts this question? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for an interesting question. And really, it's why change? There are several reasons why we really need to change the governance. One, because municipal harbours are not normally governed the way we do it. We inherited it. And by the way, the term Harbour Board is a legacy term. It's been a harbour committee since the formation of Dorset Council that refers to a previous single harbour structure. What will happen under this arrangement is that the Harbours Committee will meet, the expert advice from all members will continue. The recommendation, instead of waiting to go to full council, will go to Cabinet. And it won't be just one portfolio holder. The Cabinet has joint and several responsibility for decisions. But on financial matters, it will certainly speed up the decision-making. We've had a recent instance where, because of the confusion of how this should happen, there was a delay on a very important contract. We've just managed to squeeze it in and secure the contract for a very worthwhile renewal of pontoons in Weymouth Harbour. And that will allow us, for instance, to accept tenders from cruise ships with 76 people on each tender to come into Weymouth by foot and spend the day in Weymouth. That would not have been possible without having these new pontoons. And that sort of urgency of decision-making to allow procurement to seal a contract on a set time. Those are the sort of things that this governance, but it will, the other thing that the leader mentioned is the ability for other members to question through scrutiny, which doesn't happen because under the current governance, the harbour decisions or recommendations do not go to scrutiny. So it's actually going to give it more of a democratic, I mean, members are obviously welcome to come to committee to ask questions, but I think it gives it a more balanced and democratic route and also a much faster route. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. We have Councillor Ireland wishing to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I, when I read the report, basically had the same concerns as Councillor Fry has already echoed, and we discussed this at our group meeting earlier this week. And it's difficult to see this other than a power grab by an executive. It does take away representation. We here are 82 councillors, obviously not all here tonight, but we are politically representative of the people who elected us. And this is handing power to one person, or in some cases, a politically unrepresented cabinet. That's a fact. I do take Councillor Roberts' point about scrutiny, but I'm not sure how many decisions will actually come to scrutiny, to be honest. And I'd just like to reflect, and I noted the report states that this change, and I'm quoting here, would mean that the portfolio holder would have regular interaction with the Harbours Committee, which will strengthen the links between the two. And to be honest, I just couldn't help wondering what the portfolio holder was doing before now, that he couldn't actually meet with the Harbours Committee.
Thank you. Perhaps I can ask Councillor Roberts to answer that one too. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we covered most of the points that Councillor Ireland raised, but the interaction between the portfolio holder and the harbour has been detailed and regular, but the portfolio holder didn't have any authority to influence the decisions. But by the recommendations going to Cabinet, he will then, or she, the portfolio holder, will be able to demonstrate through their knowledge of the harbours to the rest of the Cabinet the proposals and what their view on those should be. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Weller. Councillor Bryan.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. And I've got to say I'm quite stunned by Councillor Ireland's comment, because if he looks at my attendance record, I attended over 40 different meetings outside of my own responsibilities, because I want to look at everything. This is, it implied, and I'm sure you didn't mean it, but it did imply that I hadn't attended any Harbours meetings. Well, if you look at my track record, I've attended most of them, and if I'm not there, then my lead member always attends. This is just about trying to get a correct flow of governance. When I first found out that decisions could be made that this council would be responsible for paying for over years to come, I felt it was wrong. So I discussed it with the leader, he discussed it with our legal side, and this is the way forward. I have checked with other councils who have harbours, and they all adopt this same type of governance. But I really do hope, Councillor Ireland, that you'll look at my track record and look at my attendance record, which other than one meeting in 2019, I have attended every single meeting, and in addition, a number of other meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'd like to say right from the outset, this is not a criticism of Councillor Bryan in any way. I know how conscientious he is about the harbour. I know how he attends, and I know during my time as chairman of the Harbour Committee, we spoke on the telephone regularly, frequently, and discussed things. So any suggestion that he is not 100% committed to the future of all three of our harbours would be entirely unjust. I am concerned about this change of governance, and I take the example that Councillor Roberts just gave us of the pontoons, and I'm referring very much to my own experience here, which is quite extensive. Careful forward planning rarely meant that things needed to be decided on as an emergency. Again, that's not a criticism, it's simply a fact. Although I accept that sometimes emergencies do come up, clearly they do. But I am concerned that it demotes the value, in my view, of Harbour Committee members who are quite different in many ways. I'd also like to correct the idea, and I'm sure that it wasn't intended, the idea that independent members vote on how council tax money will be spent. Independent members do not vote. They're not elected members. They clearly would not be allowed to vote on that. Well, they never did. In that case, if that's changed, they never voted in my time. I always told them that they were not elected members and were not allowed to vote on spending council tax money. So I really wanted to stand up for Councillor Bryan. He's been a terrific advocate of everything harbours, and he worked very hard to get to know harbours on a very, very steep learning curve. But I am concerned about this particular, and I know it's a governance thing, but I am concerned about it. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Bryan.
Thank you very much, Councillor Weller. I'm going to ask Councillor Mark Roberts to reply again. Thank you.
I would like to remind Councillor Weller that the independent members voted you in as chair.
Madam Chair, they never vote on finance.
Unless we have any more people wishing to speak, Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been involved in harbours since being elected. I've served on the committee. And I think in terms of harbour policy, I've been one of Councillor Bryan's staunchest critics in some place. Other places I've been a strong supporter of his. However, the thing with Councillor Bryan is he is elected, and I would take that any day over leaving this committee to be partly governed by unelected, unaccountable members of a committee. And I can say that with full principle. Unlike anybody, I'm the only person in here that every time an independent member of the Harbours Committee's come before this council, I have voted against every single one of them, normally 82-1, but I always like to back a loser to see the Prime Minister. But however, I don't agree with having these people on these committees anyway. So as long as they are, I will be voting for this, and it has been a hell of a decision for me to make. I've been on the fence, which is somewhere I normally sit. If not, I'd be sat over there. However, I will be voting for this evening. But please consider getting rid of these people off these committees. We pay them £1,000 a year. No one.
Thank you very much. I had somebody over here, didn't I? Councillor Bartlett, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I am aware of the issue that was raised by Councillor Roberts in terms of the pontoons. As the chairman of one of your scrutiny committees, I have been in the situation on several occasions where grant funding coming from central government is coming at such pace, it doesn't fall in line with our calendar meetings and decisions have to be made. The fact that this is moving over to the portfolio holder for highways, travel and environment, I'm satisfied with the fact that he will be eligible for scrutiny, and therefore we have a scrutiny process and the whole function. I appreciate Councillor Ireland's concerns. Change is always a little bit nervous, and this is quite a big change. But I would support it in the fact that we are going to be able to scrutinise this in future and spend this money. And as I say, these government funding come at such pace, and on the pontoons issue, we very nearly missed out, and it was a substantial amount of money. I should not have been involved in the process, I should add, because the governance was confusing, which is why I think this would actually be a much better model going forward. But I do appreciate people's nervousness about the change of it. Thank you.
Councillor Bartlett. I'm going to give Councillor Roberts the last opportunity to speak, and then we're going to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Bartlett, for confirming the view that scrutiny can now play its proper role. I would just like to comment that we have currently 3 independent members whose expertise has been invaluable in forming both the strategy, which you will remember that the vision is to have thriving harbours in their communities. We are currently working on a requirement of the Port Marine Safety Code, which is a safety plan across all 3 harbours. We have an independent member who has spent a lifetime doing precisely this in the nuclear industry. That wealth of knowledge has meant that the committee has been able to develop this without going out and paying consultants to do it. That's the sort of expertise that the independent members bring, and I find them absolutely invaluable to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Roberts. Well, this recommendation has been proposed by Councillor Flower, duly seconded by Councillor Roberts. We will take all 3 recommendations together, please, and vote as soon as Susan says we're allowed.
Thank you, Chairman. The vote is now open. Thank you. The vote is now closed. The results of the vote are 53 votes in favour, 12 against, 2 abstention, and the recommendations are therefore carried.
Thank you, councillors. Agenda item 14 is the election of Audit and Governments Committee Chairman and Vice Chairman. So we will start off, please, to appoint a new Chairman of the Audit and Governments Committee, and I'm going to ask Councillor Nick Ireland to make a proposal. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This is for the nomination for, our nomination for Chairman of Audit and Governance. But firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Matt Hall, and I'm sure you'll all join with me for doing an excellent job of chairing Audit and Governance. Since 2019, since this council existed, and he did it in an efficient, effective and non-partisan manner. And in that, he was ably assisted by Councillor Richard Biggs, and I'm pleased to nominate Councillor Biggs for the now vacant position. Councillor Biggs, and I'm bigging him up here, he has a strong history in governance in prior positions, and I've always found him to be fair, considered and thoughtful, qualities that are ably suited to the role, and I commend him to you.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. I'd like a seconder for your proposal, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Having worked with Councillor Biggs for 3 years, I can honestly say this council will have its audit and its risk management in safe hands, which is really important in this current climate. Thank you.
Smashing. Thank you very much. Did you actually second that, or just you wave at me? Thank you. Okay, officially proposed and seconded. I think we're going to go straight to the vote on this. Thank you.
The vote is now open. Okay. The vote is now closed. And the results of the vote are 64 votes in favour, 1 against, 1 abstention. Councillor Biggs is therefore elected Chairman of the Audit and Governance Committee.
Well done. We now move on to the Vice Chairman. Quiet, please, everybody. We move on to the Vice Chairman of the Audit and Governance Committee. Over to you again, Councillor Ireland.
Yeah, I'd like to propose Councillor Robin Legg for the position. As most of you will know, Councillor Robin Legg has a vast experience in local government and has often demonstrated to you all an almost forensic level of detailed scrutiny and a tenaciousness, to be fair, in getting to the truth. And I'm very happy to nominate him for this role. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Ezard.
I'm very pleased to second Councillor Robin Legg for this, and because he's very thorough and diligent, and as a deputy, and I'm sure he'll fill the post very well. Thank you.
Very much, Councillor Ezard. I can't see anyone wishing. Councillor Fry.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Sue Cockings for this role of Vice Chairman. I think she would do an admirable job. So I'd like to nominate her, please.
Do we have a seconder, please? Thank you. Councillor John Worth to second. Who wishes to speak, please? John Worth. Sorry. Sorry, we need to pause this meeting a minute while the monitoring officer checks his rules. Before we go ahead, please, if you'll give us 2 or 3 to talk amongst yourself. Thank you. Just to ensure that you get the right information, I'm going to ask Jonathan to explain.
Chairman, thank you. I just needed to check the Constitution. I should have listened to Susan in the first place. So the position is that the chairman of the Audit and Governance Committee has to be a member of the largest opposition group that is different to that of the leader. The vice chairman, though, can be from any of the opposition groups. So I just needed to check that so that the nomination of Councillor Cocking is valid. Thank you.
Councillor Worth, did you want to support your seconding of the proposal? Thank you.
Yeah, got there. Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'd like to second the nomination of Councillor Cocking. She is a standing member on this committee and comes with a wealth of knowledge, and I feel that she would fulfil the job of Vice Chairman admirably. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Legg.
I hadn't actually come to this meeting expecting to speak at all. Isn't it very exciting that we're going to have a contest? I wonder whether Jonathan has actually considered, and this is a point, I suppose, almost a point of order, whether he's considered the rules of procedure, paragraph 30, which refers to the election of chairman of committees being made at the annual meeting of the council. This isn't the annual meeting, is it?
Chairman, if members can give me a moment, I will look at Standing Order 30. Thank you.
I'm asking Jonathan to tell us where we are on this.
Thank you, Chairman. I've looked at the point raised by Councillor Legg on Standing Order 30. Standing Order 30A begins that the annual meeting of full council will elect the chairman and vice chairman of each committee to the extent as provided in the articles of the Constitution. And that is exactly what happened at the last annual meeting of council and will happen at the next annual meeting of the council. A chairman of the Audit and Governance Committee, vice chairman, will be elected at those meetings. What the standing order does not say is that if we get a vacancy in between meetings, you're not allowed to elect a chairman. It doesn't say that at all. You have a vacancy and it's entirely right that you should fill that vacancy at the next available meeting of this council, which is tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Sorry. Councillor Christopher first. Sorry.
I must declare an interest here because over the course of time and various times, I've actually sat on the Audit and Governance Committee and continue to do so with Sue Cocking and indeed Robin Legg. However, within the Audit and Governance meetings, there has been mention by the internal auditors about political succession being a risk. I look at all these things line by line at every meeting. And with the conduct of the opposition this evening, the way they've conducted themselves and have appeared so divided, it does appear that with them losing members, etc., clearly political succession is a problem for the opposition. A party in chaos, could I add?
Excuse me. I have to say, I don't believe I heard that. I'm going to ask Spencer to speak, please.
I don't know how you follow that really, but I will try. I will try. All I would say, Chairman, before we take the vote, if we have this sort of thing where we've got to have a casual vacancy filled, it would be useful if any member, any group leader, I'm going to say the group leader in the chamber, it would be useful if they share that with others, so we've got an informed decision to make on the night, not be surprised on the night. Okay? Just a point for future, I think.
Thank you, Spencer. That's well said. I'm going to ask Susan what she would like us to do next. Yes, please. On a vote, I meant.
Yeah. Chairman, the vote is now open, so members are asked to press 1 for Councillor Robin Legg, press 2 for Councillor Susan Cocking, and press 3 if you wish to abstain. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah. Thank you. The vote's now closed. And the results of the vote are 26 votes for Councillor Legg, 42 votes for Susan Cocking. Therefore, Susan Cocking has been elected Vice Chairman of the Audit and Governance Committee.
Well done, everybody. It's nice to have a contest. Agenda item 15, the dispensation report, please. I'm going to ask Councillor Flower to introduce the report.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Never easy when you have to think of colleagues in this chamber who have issues, ill health and so on. And I think this sort of dispensation is perfectly sensible, reasonable, and we should support it across the chamber. So I'll move the recommendations set out in the report.
Councillor Ireland.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to thank Councillor Flower for his words. And I would like to add that Councillor Dover has a long history of meeting the needs of her residents. But in recent months, whilst continuing with some ward work, she has been unable to meet her usual level of commitment due to illness, unfortunately. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Dover's ward partner, Councillor Maria Rowe, for admirably taking up the very considerable extra workload without complaint. Whilst Councillor Dover is aiming to be present at December's full council, delays in her recovery have prompted the need for this request for dispensation, and I trust we can all support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ireland. We will go to a vote on this. It has been proposed and duly seconded. And I would like to ask you, please, to pass on the council's good wishes to Councillor Dover. Anyway, right, so over to Susan.
Thank you, Chairman. The vote is now open. Thank you. The vote is now closed and the dispensation has been agreed.
Well done, councillors. Agenda item 16 is urgent items and there are none. Agenda item 7 is exempt business and there is none. However, Councillor Matt Hall has requested to make a statement to council and I have agreed. Over to you, Matt.
Chairman, I didn't know standing down as chairman of a committee would cause so much discussions tonight. But I have become aware over the last couple of weeks that it has caused a lot of speculation. And I appreciate the letters and the emails from members across this chamber asking whether I'm all right. So it's fitting that in this council I make a statement. My decision to stand down as Chairman of Audit and Governance is not a reflection on Dorset Council in any way, shape or form. I am probably now better, except for last Thursday, better than I have ever been in my entire life, which is thanks to this council and thanks to all of you. Recently, I have successfully completed and am now qualified as a planner. Thanks to all of you who've helped teach me over the years, and that's from my own group and across the chamber, and from what I would say is the fantastic inspirational, and I do find them inspirational, I'm not taking the mick, the inspirational words of Councillor David Walsh, who I personally find very inspiring. And I do. And I would also like to thank a certain person sat up in the top row who did a very good CV for me and reference for me. Because last month I started as a project planner for city development for Exeter City Council, commonly known to everybody else as a planner. I'm now more than the wrong side of 40, but for the first time in my life, and it's not a lie, I get up with excitement of what the day holds. And that is down to you all. Now, I have the great ability, having discussed things with Jonathan through legal, having had my new contract checked, I can still remain a Dorset councillor. I have the great ability, chained to a computer screen, to work flexible hours. So I can be at every one of these full council meetings. I can be at every council meeting where the future of Sherborne West is discussed so that I represent the people that elected me. What I cannot do is commit to doing audit and governance because I just don't have the time, unless this council wanted to follow the comments that Councillor Bartlett has made over many years and have meetings in the evening. Yes, you're supposed to say no. But honestly, that is the truth. That is the reasoning behind it. There is no problems, there are no issues, and my gratitude to you all is profound. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt, and we all wish you the very best, and we're really pleased not to be losing you. I'm going to close the meeting now at 20:54. Thank you for coming, and a safe journey home, please.